repeat of the Princess Grace Challenge Cup. The first time these two crews are raced over this track, side by side. Head-to-head racing, winner takes all.
Yep, and we've got Sydney, Australia on the left, and this is the Washington crew on the right. Away cleanly, nice lines, a bit easier to steer these boats than the Coxless 4s. And Sydney and Australia on their first day of the regatta as well. Welcome to those watching in Sydney. It's now just turned midnight. These girls will be hoping it's not high noon for them. And they're neck and neck as they come onto the boomed part of the course and trying to get the rate high and the power strong to get an early advantage.
And you'll have a mix of, obviously we've got two crew, a composite here of Sydney University and Edinburgh. You know, this can be due to the athletes being friends with each other, have studied before somewhere else together, wanting to race together, you know, keeping in touch. And it's a great event where they get to come out here and they can actually have a composite.
Yeah, exactly. And just looking at the Edinburgh and Sydney crew on the far side in the white boat, in the bow seat there on the right of our picture is Laura McDonald. First time rowing at Henley Regatta, but she's been over the course in a race before because she coxed the Edinburgh University Remenham Cup 8 in 2017. That's last year, so really unusual. She was injured, but light enough to cox that boat. So she's coxed, she's seen the course facing forward, now she's seeing the course facing backwards for the first time.
And there's something unique about this particular boat class. You know, having 4 athletes sculling, so they've got a blade in each hand, so they've got 2 blades each, moving in harmony, in unison, trying to maximize their boat speed, having the belief in the training they've done.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm really impressed with the start of the Sydney and Edinburgh crew that we're looking at here now, Mark. Really nice start, and they've just inched away every stroke, and that's what you want to be doing, just moving the boat a little bit further than the opposition every stroke. We see there the face of Kara Grizoviak. She raced in this morning, race 10 this morning, so she had not had that long to recover from that in the Princess Royal, the women's the women's single event. So she's doubling up at the regatta, and so she will want to be as efficient as possible here.
And that is really tough to do, especially at Henley. Just doubling up and doing 2 events is...
Yeah,
that is hard.
In this heat as well, I think, you know, it's expensive, even if you're in control of the race. But she's got experience. She's an Australian under-23 single, won the championship women's single at Henley Women's Regatta just recently.
And also, she's in the stroke seat as well, which is renowned for being probably the toughest seat. You know, if you're going to do 2 events, you normally try and put them in the middle of the boat to look after them or shield them a little bit, but to actually, she's setting the rhythm, she's in the stern of the boat. You know, that's the toughest seat to sit in.
It's a seat of responsibility, isn't it? And as we look at the Washington crew, looking really tidy, suffering a little bit with some bouncy water here. We've seen a little bit more tricky conditions in the middle of the course here as they come into this open area. You can see in the back of the shot several of the big boats going past, and even if they're going at a fairly slow speed, they do kick up a little bit of wash and makes the boat bounce, as you can see here.
But that's the unique thing of racing at Henley, is you get to there's so much going on around you. It's those kind of elements that you can't control, but being able to kind of roll with them and relax when that wash does come from the outside.
So it looks like Sydney and Edinburgh here have opened up a pretty solid lead as they come up to the middle of the course. Just looking again there at the face, she looks like she's straining, but actually the bodies are loose. Look at the way those arms are moving forward and back together, just hanging off the oars. Really nice sculling, isn't it, Mark?
Yeah, and they're moving in harmony, in unison there. If you just look at the blades, you can look at the gates, you can look at the buttons, those kind of pink and green things. You know, just watching them move in sync together. It's a really well drilled crew, their technique, moving in harmony, moving together, being efficient.
So that's Laura McDonald, Fiona Ewing, Karina Simpson, and in stroke Kara Grizoviak from the composite crew between Edinburgh University. That's Laura McDonald in the bow and Sydney in the other seats in the boat here. And they certainly don't look like they've come together late. I'm not sure quite how early they got together as a crew, but they're sculling technically really quite nicely as a unit. And they get to look back at the crew, the oppositions they're racing against from Washington. Washington, I know this is an ongoing project. You know, they've come to Henley as a squad this year to really suss it out. And I know the future is that they're going to try and come here and dominate when they're in their next round of, because the NCAA rules, they can't come here every year. They've got to wait 4 years. And I know that that's what they're looking forward to when they come here in 4 years. They want to You're right, it's a real strategy, isn't it? I'm just looking at the two in the stern of the Washington boat. The two women nearest us are the two Italians, both with international experience there. We're looking at Kira O'Donnell in the stroke seat and Camilla Papalardo in the 3-seat. Italians both. They were in the Italian under-23 team together, and so there's real experience in the stern of this boat, and they're also sculling pretty well, but they haven't been able to get a better of the Sydney and Edinburgh crew, and this is the time where they have to be pushing really hard. They're coming through the middle of the course here, 2,112 metres of real pain if you're in a position behind, and it can be a privilege to be sitting in front as long as you can control the race and control any pushes as the Washington quad pushes back to try to get on terms with Sydney and Edinburgh. And
also for Washington to do a sculling event, a sweeps event, is a massive change as well, because their whole program is about sweep all. You know, the NCAA kind of racing is all in 4s, 8s. So it's really impressive that they're taking a new leap to try something different. And also the bow girl, Julia Paulson, you know, she's a 4-time Pac-12 champion and a 2-time NCAA national champion. So a lot of pedigree in that boat.
So Mark, tell us a bit more about that, because you're one of our most experienced and successful scullers in Britain. What's the transition from rowing to sculling like? What kind of different skills does it mean that the Washington team will have to be bringing in?
Yes, it's always easier to transition from sculling to rowing or sweep. You know, having that boat feel, that sense of understanding how a boat moves efficiently on your own, you can really take that skill into a bigger boat. When you're trying to go from a big boat, say an 8, and then you're going to sculling, it's a complete different dynamic. And just the way that you move as a unit, having, you know, to deal with two blades, you're using, you know, your both hands for different things rather than your both hands being stuck to one oar. So it's a different skill set massively.
Well, I can attest to that. I was somebody who learned to row first and only tried sculling later. I found it much more difficult. I didn't have the skill to do it.
And it becomes a fear thing as well. Like a lot of people that go from sweep to sculling are just petrified. They don't want to be in a sling because they're worried about falling in, where if you start in a sculling boat, you eliminate that fear of falling in and worry.
Well, I wish it was us back in my day, but not for these women as they come through the stewards' enclosure. And looks like Sydney and Edinburgh there commanded the race actually from the start, pulled out quite unexpectedly fast, and University of Washington, at the beginning of this big project, as we say, to broaden their program this week, are going to be pipped by Sydney and Edinburgh University taking the race in this first round of the Princess Grace Challenge.